Welcome to another week of Instigating here, our fourth season, brought to you by our friends at Larry Hudson Chevrolet Buick GMC. Ryan Drury alongside Clarkey. Very pleased to be joined to talk about a bunch of Toronto sports news. Who better than our buddy over at Sportsnet? You can hear this guy all across their channels. This guy's a producer. He's a host. He's a multimedia extraordinaire, and he's one of our favorite guests, a friend of the show, our buddy Mike Gentile. Mike, how are you, buddy?
Well, you're going to build me up to the point that I can't live up to it.
No, come on. No,
like you man of many talents.
Oh yeah, you are.
Yeah, he's a
photographer, still doing photography.
That's right. I do that on the side.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just editing a wedding, as you guys called.
There you go.
It never stops.
See?
It never stops.
Look what I'm talking about.
Many talents. That's right.
Look what I'm talking about here. Come on here. He's probably the wedding singer too. You never know. All right, Mike, we got to ask you about some Leafs news. Man, hockey season, it's here, man. Like, it is around the corner. We're not into NHL games yet, but we are not very far away from camp kicking off, and there's lots of news, of course, in Leafs land. First of all, Nick Robertson, a guy who's made an awful lot of noise and has complained quite a bit about his lot in life as a Leaf, wanting a trade, reiterated he still wanted a trade. However, he ends up signing a one-year deal at a pretty cheap rate with the Leafs. What did you make of this deal? And, you know, do you agree with his assessment on trying to get out of there? Because that left side in Toronto, like, that's a good competition for a kid like this. What do you make of this whole saga and him signing this deal?
Well, they need him to be the player they thought he was going to be all this time. Like, imagine he actually worked out the pressure it would take off of them, not having to go and acquire somebody else. So he needs to be what they wanted him to be. And I think this is kind of the time to figure out if he's going to do it or not. He may be the first person in history to try to hold out or complain and then get a minimum deal. Like, it was like the worst. It was like the worst negotiation ever. And he doesn't have a lot of legs to stand on here. Like, it's kind of like the last person that's on the Leafs that should be complaining about anything should be this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So on one hand, I get it. He wants more, but he, like, it's kind of a give and take relationship. I don't think he's earned it. I think he's shown a little bit of promise. He's got to play his butt off and earn it.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's been injured. He broke his leg. He's had some tough luck too. But yeah, you're right. He hasn't earned it at all.
The money in Toronto's there. Like, Toronto's not cheap. They'll pay guys. Mm-hmm. So it's, he just hasn't, he doesn't have the X's and O's to go with the dollar sign at this point. So we'll see what happens. But at some point, I kind of feel like this is the year they decide if he's part of that future, or maybe he's best to get flipped, because a lot of people think this deal is sort of setting up for him to be flipped to help them make some cap space.
So assuming he is on this team, where do you see him playing?
So, you know what's weird? Remember when Nyes got called up the first time?
Mm-hmm.
I had said he should be on the second line and then the first. People thought that was like ridiculous, right? When you're on the third and fourth line, there's not enough talent there. Like, sometimes you need people around you to get you the puck or you to get them the puck. So I'm not saying he's a first or second line guy, but he's not a fourth line grinder either.
No.
So he's got to be a part of a new look third line, potentially centered by John Tavares. It looks like now that he's not the captain, that might happen. So I kind of feel that's his spot. And then after that, I mean, does he step up if someone's injured or something? But kind of like not good enough to be on the first or second, but he's not fourth line material.
No, there's
it's interesting. Well, it's interesting too, because he's a guy, like you said, that Clarkey, it's valid, the injury issues that he's run into. Like, that's just plain bad luck. And when he got on the ice last year, in a lot of instances in limited time, he did score some goals. Like, he had 13, 14 goals last year.
But here's the deal, Ryan. You know what? A lot of his goals came after he sat.
Yes.
That just means, in my mind, you got to work harder all the time.
I don't think that is a debate to be had. I think that's a very valid point. And like Mike said off the top, like, you got to earn this. Like, this is big boy hockey. Like, you're not in Peterborough anymore where you're just going to be on the first line and score 50. Like, you got to work. And I look, and this isn't a unique take, Mike. People have been saying this throughout this offseason after, his trade request initially came out. Like, that left side in Toronto, it's not exactly a murderer's row of guys that you got to overtake, especially for a kid with his draft pedigree and the talent that he's flashed. Like, Yeah, Max Pacioretty, and we'll talk about him in a second. Even him coming in, like, look, my opinion is if you're Nick Robertson and you don't feel like you can take out for ice time a Max Pacioretty that's on the very back nine of his career after 2 Achilles injuries, and then basically just Matthew Knies talent-wise ahead of you, I kind of question where this kid's head's at a little bit, Mike.
I would say to him, honestly, at some point, what do you want, Nick? Like, what do you want? I'm like, forget the money. Like, what is it you want? You want to be an all-star? You want to be a top 10 scorer, top 5 on the, like, what is it that you want? And then go ahead, go and get it.
Go do it.
No one stopped them. Like, it's just so weird. I almost think he owes the team some gratitude for really not giving up on the guy. He could have gave up on him years ago. He should have been trade bait years ago, right? You know, when Dubas had his last trade deadline when he made 1,000 trades and swapped out 20% of the roster, like maybe that should have been the time that he went. So I think he owes the team a lot of gratitude. Like, they never gave up. So it's like, Nick, like, what do you want? Go and earn it, go and play, and then we'll pay you for it. But like having some kind of holdout gripe situation now, to me, I think is silly.
Yeah, it's not a good look either. And like Toronto fans and the word holdout, you know, that doesn't mix well. And when you're a kid like this that has some potential, we all knew that when he got drafted. I saw him in the OHL. He's a good player, like really good junior player. But when you've not achieved anything, and yes, the injuries are a factor. Like we get that, Nick. When you haven't achieved anything, to kind of hold a team or try to over the barrel and say, well, I want out of here and I want to go here and have a top 6 minute. It's like the talent's there. Like you said, they didn't give up on that. You got to go and take that. And I'm looking at that left side. Like, I don't know.
Sometimes the injuries are on the player too. Sometimes players, how they are conditioned and how they take care of themselves, sometimes they lead them down the, you know, that path of being injured all the time as well. So he can't even use that as an excuse, because sometimes the player has an impact on, you know, on their own health and that sort of thing. So I just think he has no leverage. I don't get it.
No doubt. So, any team could have signed him if they really wanted to. He was I don't think anyone's
knocking the door down for the guy either.
No,
like maybe you take a flyer on him, but he should just put his head down, play his butt off this year.
Yeah.
New look, new captain, new whatever, and just go from there. Be quiet.
More news today. Max Pacioretty looks like he's coming in on a PTO. First of all, this guy's going to wear number 67. Like, there's no doubt about it. But
so what?
Well, come on. It's obviously a number that's associated with the Maple Leafs, not in a good way. So, and I'm not blaming him. That's his number. I'm just saying, like Roberts Vela all over again. I don't know if you remember Roberts Vela.
I remember Bobby Svela,
He got ripped a new, you know what. Anyway. Mike,
people will notice, though. Don't notice that number. It'll be kind of a joke.
Is this guy washed up? Like, is he going to offer anything to this team?
So this is a long tradition of Maple Leafs veteran signings from...
Well, they have to do it because that's all the money they have, right?
Yeah, Spezza to Marlowe to Thornton.
Yeah.
It's like all these... He's just the latest one. He's just the latest one.
Yeah.
You know, I read... Some people thinking he could score 30 goals again.
Not a chance.
Oh, no way.
Not a chance.
So he's so, to me, insignificant that he's just another guy, right? Like, they want to sign him. Great. He makes the team. Fine. It's not going to have a big impact.
If he scored 30,
he'd be sexy name.
I don't think so.
Yeah, if he scored 30, he'd be the Masterton Trophy winner running away. Like, there's no way that's happening.
So I think he's a bit washed. But I think based on, the weird thing about the Leafs, the pristine, best, amazing season is not this coming year. It's the year after. That's the most interesting time.
Yeah, well, you could have a lot of money opening up. That's right.
You may have Tavares off the books.
Yep.
So this year, you're still kind of stuck.
This is the grind season, no question. This is the hardest one cap-wise.
Yeah, they got to just kind of survive this year and try to fluke it.
Yeah, Willie's new deal, Matthews' new deal, all kicks in, right? So it all kicks in this year. This is the toughest one for sure. And to sign Pacioretty, they're going to have to. What are you rolling your eyes about there, Drury?
Hey, just like hearing these things about this franchise right now, it's just outrageous that this is where we're at. Oh, it's gonna be a tough year for them and blah. It's like,
well, I
can't believe that this is where we're at with this franchise. Like, God, could they just win something and like not have people sign this?
I mean,
we said toughest
financially.
Yes, that's what we're saying.
I know.
There's no flexibility. This is the team they have.
know.
Right. And they have to trade someone to open the cap space, even to sign Pacioretty.
Yeah, but next
year they can't fit them.
When it gets really interesting.
Absolutely.
It absolutely does because of the contract narratives. And we'll see
what happens.
We'll see if Clarkey's favorite player, Mitchie Magic Marner, ends up signing an extension. I personally think he will. I mean, Mike, we've talked about this in recent weeks. My crystal ball is showing me that this guy is going to have like 34 points in his first 16 games, and they're gonna give him a 6-year deal at like $12 million. We got visitors. We love it.
Oh my goodness,
that's all good.
What's your lad think about Marner?
So I'm not big on a Marner trade.
Right.
So I've been on this thing for a little while, and here's why. Either he plays for your team and you extend him and now he's a long-term part of the team, or he plays out the entire season in which he's going to play his butt off because he's going to want to get paid. But making a trade, to me, makes no sense because any team that deals for the guy is going to have to retain some salary. Like, the Leafs are going to have to pay some of that salary. Then whoever comes over, they got to pay those guys. Yep. So it's not like you're having a huge savings and then you take a 100-point player off your team. It makes no sense. You're actually better to let him play the whole year, play strong, try to get his money, and then if he goes, he goes.
That's what I said last week to Ryan. He doesn't agree.
Yeah, and in a salary cap era, there's no such thing as losing someone for nothing because you get their money, you get their salary.
Right.
That's very true.
That's exactly what
true. Clarkey, it's not that I disagree that that's what probably should happen. It's just that I don't think that that's what will happen, because much like when we talk about this team trying to win anything of significance, which they've never done with this group that Mitch Marner's a focal point of, and let's be clear here, he made himself more of a focal point with the holdout nonsense and getting paid more than Nikita Kucherov a year after he signed his deal. Yeah, that's a whole thing. So much like that, where it's like, hey, we'll believe the Leafs will win something when they show us. I'll believe that this front office pulls a move like that when they actually do it. I firmly feel like he's going to pop off early in the season, much like Willie did, and they're going to give him whatever he wants. That's what I think.
And I think
I don't think so.
Get rid of him. He can't, but I think if Brad had his way, he would have found a way to get him out of town. Because little things. Remember when they unveiled Matthews as the new captain? So he puts the C on his shirt instead of the A. Tavares puts an A on his shirt instead of a C. And Treliving kind of bobbled like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, for sure. John's one of the guys. Then you had Riley and you had Marner in attendance at this press conference. When he was asked who's wearing the A, he wouldn't even commit to it. Those two guys are sitting right there. It just would have made sense to say, this is the 4 members of the leadership. That led me to believe that he wasn't convinced that Marner's going to be on this team for parts of the season. So I think he wants to move on. I think the team has made that decision, but I think they can't. They cannot deal the guy.
He just controls it. They can.
He controls it. They should have done it last year before July 1st.
100%. They should
have. Instead of having a power struggle between Shanahan and Dubas, they were taking around.
Well, and that's what I heard a lot that came down to that. Because Dubas wanted to move him, and Shanahan said no.
Yeah.
Remember, Shanahan's the constant in all this, right? He hasn't won squat.
I thought it was interesting that his only appearance at the Matthews captaincy thing was for a photo op.
Of course it was. Of course it was.
He's always been there. Like, think about it for a minute. I get it that the GM makes the moves and the trades and all this stuff. But a change of captain is a very ceremonial type of thing, right? That's like, if there's anything Shanahan's done, that's what he's done. Legends Row, the retired numbers, like, this is his kind of thing. A new captain, whatever. The fact that he was in the background, I thought spoke a lot. Because I think now it's Treliving and Berube's team. I think Shanahan is kind of on the outside looking in.
Well, and Pelly there with Pelly there now too. Like,
he's redundant.
100%. I think Pelly didn't want to get rid of him right away, but I don't think Shanahan's going to be around long term. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Unless they start changing the narrative.
The goaltending. We hear Wall and Stolars. Do you think Matt Murray's going to play a role in this team this year?
I'm so glad you asked because no one's talking about the goaltending.
I know.
So the biggest move they made was Tanev, technically, and Matthews getting the captaincy. That's their off season.
Yeah.
No one's discussed the fact that they probably have the fourth best goaltending in their division. Not better than Jeremy Swayman. No one's better than Bobrovsky. Better than Vasilevsky. So you're starting the year now. It could change. It could change, but they're at least the fourth best goaltending duo in that division. So
they might be fifth or sixth.
Like if Dubas was around, Murray would be on that team. So I don't think. No, I think they went on Wall and Stolars. I think Stolars is probably the guy to take the job. In terms of Wall's health status and that sort of thing, because he hasn't done it either.
I think Matt Murray is going to play a big role in this team, rightly or wrongly. I think he'll play a lot of games.
So then who gets bounced?
Good question.
Right, because they're gonna have like they could do with 3 goalies. They got to send someone down, but
yeah.
Because then it feels like Wall's the odd man out. Is that possible?
Possible.
And they all need waivers too, right? Because of their service time, and that's a risk, right? Because you're looking at a Matt Murray that hasn't been healthy in about 4 years, and he's a long way removed from those back-to-back cups in Pittsburgh.
No question.
And then you're looking at a guy that you just brought in from a cup champ in Stolars, who there's questions on what his workload could look like. And then you're looking at a kid who's shown some flashes of really nice talent. Like when Wall's healthy and he's in there, like he's had some performances where you're like, man, this kid's got something here. And then he gets hurt, turning.
Well, just like last year, like he brought them back from the brink. Down 3-1, and then he gets hurt on a stupid last play of the game to preserve. It's
a really tough thing to shuffle.
If you want to believe in curses and that sort of thing, I mean, I can't get over it. He let in a goal at 1959.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
and then couldn't be there for Game 7
to miss Game 7.
Did anyone think? Let's be honest, and I know it's Toronto, but when they made that comeback, did anyone think they were going to blow it in Game 7? If Wall was playing, it looked different. It felt different.
It certainly did.
Right?
Absolutely.
And then as soon as that happened, it's like that is so Maple Leafs.
Not that Samsonov played a bad game in Game 7, but just it changes the psyche of the team. When the guy who's played in net the last 2 games and won the last 2 games to get them to Game 7 can't skate out in the big game. It just changes the psyche of a team.
It does. And again, I don't want to spend too much time on this guy, like it's not that Samsonov did play bad. It's just that what happened at the end was a microcosm of what he represents as a goalie. He will do incredible things and make these wildly highlight reel saves. And the little fundamentals are extremely difficult for him to comprehend and meld into his game from night to night. That's what hurts him as a goaltender. And Wall's the opposite. He just can't stay healthy. So it's, I don't know. What do you make of this Jani Hakanpää thing? Because I mean, Pacioretty, I think ultimately, if he played half the games, I'd be shocked. I mean, we're probably looking at a 5-6 goal season. Like the guy, I love the guy as a player. He was with my team last year. Good veteran guy, good pro as an example, hard worker, just doesn't have that ankle. It's gone. Hakanpää, though, weird off-season saga around this guy, Mike.
Yeah.
Listen, the more things change, the more they stay the same. So maybe he's this year's John Klingberg. That's what
could be.
Oh, God.
Right?
Could be.
Does anyone have any degree of confidence that he's going to play?
No.
And be a big contributor?
I mean,
Mike,
we heard bone on bone. I heard bone on bone.
There was a rumor.
50-50
there was a rumor.
Best, right?
Yes, there was a rumor floating around upwards of a week ago that there were executives around the league saying they'd be blown away if he played another NHL game. His leg is that bad. Like,
so what did the Leafs miss? Like, what happened there? That is bizarre.
Well, obviously they've done their homework because they said they signed this guy July 1st and they finally announced it today, Thursday.
Well, they didn't officially sign him. They didn't officially. He failed his medical.
I know, but something has happened in the meantime, and they announced it today. So
it's an odd one. Thank God they only gave him a year. Because it's I don't know. It's a weird one. Let's shift our focus here. Obviously, we're excited for Leafs camp to open. Let's talk a bit about what the Jays are up to lately, man. Like this Bowden Francis guy. Like we're recording this on September 11th, and I mean, again, he gets into the ninth with a no-hitter, loses it in heartbreaking fashion. But outside of that, like, and then the Jays bullpen goes and loses it for him. Outside of that, though, like this guy has been an absolute rock star for a month and a half.
It's the one piece, it's the one time that the Jays got some good luck this year. Everything else has fallen apart. Romano, no one thought he'd be out that long. Didn't play pretty much at all this season. May not return to this team. They had to trade Danny Jansen, all these kind of guys. The Manoah thing blew up in their face. They had so many things go wrong. They never have something go right. Even Aravos Martinez gets called up and then gets popped for PEDs. Like nothing has gone the Jays' way this year until this guy, who's been there the whole time. We didn't know. This is kind of reminding me of like the Roy Halladay gets kind of called up, looks okay, leaves, comes back, and then suddenly lights out. But it's kind of like with what Vladdy did. These things start as a streak. Then they're like, so-and-so's hot. And then it's not a streak anymore. It's just who they are. So Vladdy is now an MVP type of candidate. Like he's proven it with his numbers. Francis looks outstanding. And guess what? It really makes the Manoah stuff a lot easier to swallow because this guy could take a spot.
Absolutely. And it's presenting some interesting options for next year where you hope that he can carry this over because you bring up that name in particular, Manoah. We've seen this before very recently in this market where a guy showed up and was looking lights out and then came back the next year and just really struggled. I hope that that's not in the future for Francis, although his mechanics seem very, very sound. And he, like the crazy thing about him in today's game, Mike, that strikes me is he's not blowing guys away with hot gas or anything like that. Like this guy's topping out at like 93 miles an hour, 94. He's doing it with just good location, good picks, good pitch mix, and really, really consistent mechanics where he's not tipping his pitches to anybody. Guys just don't know what this guy's going to throw, and he's buckling people with his breaking balls.
Do you know what's showing up in a lot of people's timelines these days? I don't know if you guys have noticed it. I'm always getting a lot of Greg Maddux stuff, like the videos that he's been doing, the one where he and Barry Bonds look at the iPad to go through the at-bat they had together. And
the documentary, yes.
Yeah, so like a lot of that stuff is out there. And even Randy Johnson was like, listen, he goes, I didn't have anything but sheer power and speed. So I just went up there and just threw as hard as I could. And that's it. He goes, Greg actually pitched. He actually made a chess match of each at bat. And he knew exactly how to get the batter out. He knew how to wear them down. He even, it was funny, I forgot the name of the catcher, slips of mind right now, mentioned that he's talking to Maddux and how Maddux purposely let one of the opponents hit once so that when they face each other again in the playoffs, he'd show them something different. He was just always so far ahead. And I bring it up with the Francis stuff because it's been so long since we've had pitchers that are like surgeons that are just there to get guys out. Like it's entertaining to watch that. Whereas now it's just been like 99, 100, 101, strikeout or home run, pick one of those two. So I think baseball is kind of moving back into that mode, which would be so much more entertaining. So I think it's a good trend. And you know what? It's going to go that way because the amount of Tommy John surgeries is going up every year. We heard Mark Shapiro talk about there's like a separate group with a lot of the GMs and people in baseball investigating what's up with pitchers' health when they're young. What do they do? Like, why is it that no one could stay healthy? So I think it's going to motivate a change. And I think a lot of these
it's a great question, though. You know, that's a great question because, like, you and I, Gentili, saw a lot of guys throw 130 pitches every game for a long time, and they never had Tommy John surgery. Like, what is it now? Like,
It all started with
maybe they're not throwing enough. Maybe they should up their pitch count.
I think it's connected to. So there's two things. They're throwing less pitches but the fewer pitches are being thrown harder.
Yes.
So it doesn't make sense.
Right.
If you just look at it that way, that's what's happening. Third time around, God knows you can't face him a third time or a fourth time.
No, of course not. You can't change your pitching style.
How do guys get like no hitters?
It's really.
And Francis was so close today, and
I know
we were all watching it at work, and then
it's something, man. Yeah, it's something. And on that note, Mike, you often hear pitchers of old. You bring up Maddox, you bring up Randy Johnson. You hear them say the term, "I would reach back for a little extra." Guys don't reach back anymore. They're doing it from the get-go, trying to throw 104 in the first inning. It's like, save that, save your arm, save that for later. Like,
and now you have a pitch clock, so you have to throw less pitches harder with less time.
Right.
Yeah. It's wild.
The pitch clock is great, though. Let's admit that.
I do like. I like it.
Oh no, guys! I got no issue with the pitch clock.
No,
I don't. I have.
It is single-handedly helped the game.
Can I give you one baseball thing that I've been railing on lately?
Yeah.
Please.
So now there's a universal DH, right? Interleague plays here to stay. It almost doesn't even stick out when you face a team from another league. It's just like Chicago, White Sox, and Cubs. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So if the interleague is not there, universal DH is not there, what makes these two leagues unique? What is unique from one league to the other? Nothing.
Nothing. There shouldn't be two leagues.
So why do we still have two MVPs? Like, why is there an AL? And like, this would be like having the NHL Eastern Conference Hart Trophy,
right?
And then a Western Conference.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I guess.
No, makes no sense.
I guess the argument. This is a guess. No one's obviously said this to me. I'm not exactly in contact with our buddy Bob Manfred. My guess is that league people would say, well, the season is so much longer and you end up playing your league so much more that's why they continue to do it. I'm not saying that that's right. I'm just saying that that's what I would guess someone from the league would say.
I get that, but why don't we just throw away the leagues and not play all these?
I'd be fine with it. Ohtani's the MVP.
League more.
So my point is this: if they're not unique, you don't need them. It's just MLB.
Right.
And guess what? Yes. Now's your time. Realign.
Yeah.
Realign the divisions.
Make Jays would love that.
Make it work.
Would love to be real.
Get them in with Cincinnati, Cleveland, Detroit, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's what the old rumor was back in the day, and they declined to move over there, right? So
the two New York teams to play with Boston.
Yeah.
That'd be sick.
And the Phillies.
What a rivalry that would be, man. It'd be cool.
Anyway,
I want to talk to you.
Baltimore, have all those teams there. No, you're right. They should do it.
Absolutely.
It's tradition, that's interesting. We have two leagues. It's
Tradition. Yes. Don't do anything new. Yeah. I want to ask you also, Mike, obviously there's a bit of baseball news making some waves shake around in Toronto, and that's former Raptor Demar Derozan, who's really well-liked guy in the city. A lot of people were upset when he got traded because at the time people weren't sure of what Kawhi Leonard's headspace would be. He's written a book and he's doing a book tour, and he was on Stephen A. Smith the other day. And Stephen A. Smith asked him what he thought about the Raptors winning and whether he thought he could have still played a part if he was there and the Kawhi trade never happened. What did you expect the guy to say? Like, he said, yes, I still think the Raptors win with me there and Kawhi not being traded for. It's a tough spot that he was in because as a proud competitor, obviously he's going to go, yeah, I think we still would have won. What do you think of that notion, though? I personally do not think it's possible. I don't think they get out of the second round.
We all watched that run. They ain't winning without Kawhi Leonard.
No way.
Well, they're not winning Game 7 against Philadelphia without Kawhi's shot.
Well, but even if they do, you think that team with DeMar guarding guys out there instead of Kawhi's getting back from 0-2 down against the Bucks?
He's jealous.
No, thanks.
He's just jealous. That's all.
But the only person who believes that truly is DeMar DeRozan.
For sure. And maybe
no
it's screaming daughter.
Being that agrees with that assessment. He's in a tough spot. Now,
yes.
Should he say that? No, he should say, oh, I'm glad I got dealt. Otherwise, we would have never won.
Yeah.
But the true answer is, hey, we'll never know Because the one mysterious thing is, what had a bigger part? The fact the Raptors had Kawhi, or the fact that they finally did not have to face LeBron?
Correct.
That is
they could not beat LeBron.
No, they could
Which
not.
was part of the narrative that Stephen A. Smith brought up, to be fair to him.
And DeRozan said the same thing.
And I could see where DeMar's looking at like, yeah, you know what? We got stuck with that guy for years. He finally leaves.
Yeah.
And then I get booted and this other guy comes in. And that's what, that's all we wanted, was to not have to face that team.
Yeah. Mm. Hey, say what you will about where he's at now.
But it comes across as sour grapes. It just comes across bad.
It does.
It does. And say what you will about where he's at now. Like Kawhi that year, even with the load management and the this and that, he was on another level in the play. Like he put in some really unbelievable performances. And
is Dwayne Casey saying if he was there, he could have still coached them?
Probably. I think he might have said that on a podcast actually a couple years ago.
Maybe that's true, but guess what? You weren't.
You weren't.
Exactly. You weren't there.
Yeah.
Enjoy Detroit.
Glenn Grunwald could have made that trade and won too.
Right.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah, that's valid. Speaking of putting in great performances, our friend Mike Gentile always puts in a great performance when he comes on the show. Chat. And when he and when he's on his show, listen, this guy, like we said, he's everywhere. Hire him. Maybe he'll photograph your wedding. Maybe he'll sing at your wedding. We don't know the
wedding singer.
Yeah, we don't know the limits on this guy's ceiling in terms of talent. But Mike, tell everybody where they can find all your work and what you're up to over there at Sportsnet.
Okay, so I produced the fan pregame, which is with Ailish Forfar and Justin Cuthbert, each night 6 to 7 p.m.
Chris Cuthbert's son.
That's right.
Yes.
Then I host most Thursday nights. It's usually when we don't have Jays. So when there's no Jays, I kind of slot in there. And then Saturday mornings, 9 to 12 is kind of my regular spot. So you can catch me there.
Absolutely. Fan590.
You're going to be, Sportsnet. You're going to be Roger Lajoie before long.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. I got show number on all the time. 42.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Ball sports hit differently.
Yeah.
Now we had a great summer because the Euro was there, Copa with Team Canada, that helped. The Paris Olympics. Mm-hmm. Like we had a lot of things to actually.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad summer. Yeah.
It wasn't too bad, thinking about the fact the Jays were out of the playoffs pretty much from the jump. So the summer wasn't terrible. We survived it. Mm-hmm. The Matthews captaincy, we got good stories.
Yeah.
But there's some difference when that hits for September and NFL starts and now hockey training camps around the corner. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's glorious, right?
Really. There is a different smell in the air.
Hockey starts too late for my liking. September, beginning of September is when training camp should start, and they should be playing real games by October 1st.
For sure. Well, you never know.
I think they should be in camp now, tweaking their lineups.
That's what I mean.
Absolutely. Well, one thing we never have to tweak is our buddy Mike Gentile's performance. Like I said, friend of the show. He comes on here and he delivers. He is our Greg Maddux, okay? He comes on here, he's our professor, and he delivers. Mike, we love having you on, buddy. Thanks so much for doing this.
Great times, guys. Thanks again.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, hockey in the junior level is here. Listowel Cyclones getting underway this Friday. We will chat with their general manager, Trent McClement, next about defending their Sutherland Cup title. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Thanks again to our buddy Mike Gentile from Sportsnet TheFan590 for joining us here on the show to chat about the Toronto sports scene. Drury back here with Clarkey. We're very pleased, as promised, to be joined by our good friend, a guy who's a winner. We like winners on this show. Despite the fact that Clarkey cheers for the Leafs, we like winners here, okay? And this guy's a winner. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very pleased to welcome back our buddy, the GM of the defending Sutherland Cup champion Listowel Cyclones, Trent McClement, ladies and gentlemen. Trent, how are you, my friend? How has summer been?
Summer was short, but no, thanks for having me on, guys. And it's always nice to come on this show. So, no, I really enjoy it.
Summer was short, and it was short for the very best reason. An incredible run to another Sutherland Cup championship, rather. And it was just so much fun to ride along and watch you guys do it again. Obviously, I was there in 2018 when the first one went down, and it was just so much fun to watch that group last year. You know, as you reflect back on that season, you know, we had you on this show around this time, like pretty early in the season, and you know, you guys got off to a 4-6-1 start. Things hadn't quite clicked into gear yet, and I remember you telling us we still believe that there's another gear here. There were another couple gears. I mean, the season was just unbelievable. In the playoffs, you guys were dominant. You did not lose very many games. As you reflect back on that, I mean, you must just be incredibly proud.
Oh, for sure. Like I've kind of watched on it during the summer, just kind of reflected back, and when you're in it, it's just something that it's hard to experience it all until you get out of it and you look back and just that playoff run and how much the guys were they were on. The coaching staff was on. We knew our opponents. We knew what our opponents were doing. We knew what made our opponents tick, and we played so well defensively. We scored big key goals, and we're looking back on it. It's like the start of the playoffs, you had guys like Burkett and Urig and them going, but then in the middle half there, they kind of went cold for a little bit. Then you had other guys stepping up, like the Muhlensteins and the McNevens and the Coombsies and the Chet Hudsons on that team and the McRobbies and all the guys that maybe it almost seemed like at different times in the playoffs, you had different guys leading, and then the goaltending was always there. It didn't matter. Like Grimes got most of the starts in the playoffs, but the start of the playoffs, we kind of rotated between him and Arts. And even if Grimes would have ever went down, we were pretty confident that the goalie that we had in Riley Arts, he was going to step in and do the same thing. Right. So we were our team last year, we were so deep in every aspect of the game, like defense to offense to goaltending and coaching, where it's just something where it almost seemed like it was just our year and everything just fell into place for us.
It really did. And, you know, when we talk about this year coming up, you're defending champs, that's always exciting. And I'm excited to dig into the roster this year because there's a lot of fun returning players. There's some really exciting new faces. But when you reflect back, obviously, junior hockey, guys get older, they age out, or they move on and go up programs. You guys have promoted a lot of players to higher levels over the years. When you look back on last year's roster, there's obviously a couple big names that stick out in terms of guys that aren't returning, and Luke Urig is right up there, the playoff MVP, and of course Dixon Grimes, that wall of a goaltender. On top of those two guys who are hard to replace, who are some other notable names that will not be making a return this year to Listowel?
Yeah, so we lost. That was our first line. We kind of lost Urig off that top line, which does hurt. Our second line, we did lose Tanner Dietz, who is going to go play in Wingham this year as a 21-year-old because of that new rule. We lost Ben McRobbie, who's going down to Niagara D1, which is great for him. I coached him as a kid in minor hockey, and I think for him it's just something that it's like a dream come true for him, like going down to play D1 hockey. We also lost Jack O'Donnell on that line. He was an 18-year-old last year. Well, yeah, he was an 18-year-old last year that had a great year, put up a lot of goals for us, a lot of key goals. He scored in the playoffs, a lot of big goals, scored the biggest goal, right? So he's going up to the BCHL, which is good for him. Like at the end of the day in junior hockey, anytime we can promote those guys, that just makes our program better. It's kind of next man up, who's coming in next to play good and get that, right? So, and then on the back end, you lost Jordy Alexander, he was like a career Listowel Cyclones guy. He was that guy that maybe had the hardest path as a Cyclone. When I first went there, he was playing forward because they were deep on the back end. Then he went to defense, and last year, I think by the end of the year, in my opinion, he was probably our steadiest guy back there. Like he knows the systems in and out. And then losing Grimes, that kind of, if you don't have a guy like Arts, that's a big blow. It's a big blow on any team because Grimes was good, but I do have a lot of confidence in Arts this year that he learned from Grimes last year. He pushed Grimes all year. I think that, so losing Grimes is huge, but I think that we do have a capable goalie back there right now that I don't think I'm not going to say he's going to replace Grimes, but he's going to give us a chance to win every night. And I think that arguably he's might be the best goalie in Junior B this year, in my opinion, just because of his stats last year. So, but those are kind of the key guys that we're losing from last year's team. Oh, and one guy missing is kind of the heart. Chet Hudson. He was a guy that last year he played with a bum shoulder all year. If it wasn't his last year, he probably would have hung him up, but he pushed through all year. He was that guy in the playoffs that he's doing those key penalty kill, key 5-on-5. Like he's like a glue guy in the dressing room. So losing him is also, because those are those character guys. Those are those guys that they're hard to replace because they become those guys from being in junior 3 to 4 years. So it's not like you're going to replace them with a rookie in the dressing room and everything, but those are kind of our key guys that we're losing this year.
And you mentioned about replacing guys. You've been busy. I've seen you on the phone at the office many hours, and you are adding some pretty decent talent, aren't you? Tell us about some of the guys coming in.
Yeah, so we just this week, and it's kind of nice that this actually got delayed a little bit because Chris O'Flaherty, we just locked up him. So he's a guy that he's played 132 games in the OHL. He was fourth round pick to Windsor. When he went into Windsor, he had a D1 scholarship, and they kind of talked him into going to the OHL instead of taking that D1. I think that this guy is just coming to our league. He's going to be a good sniper for us. He's going to complement Berkey really well. He's going to kind of help the loss of Uhrig, in my opinion. I haven't seen him play enough in our league to say that he's going to replace a Uhrig, but he's definitely softening the blow there on our top line. So him beside Berkey and Mason Uhrig right now gives us a really good top line. And then the other news that I just found out yesterday is I thought I was going to lose him, but the team that he's on is pretty stacked in the OHL. So Teague Vader is back this year too on our team. And I think that Teague Vader, he's a guy that I think he could be the best defenseman in this league this year. Like he's worked hard all summer to reach his goal of playing in the OHL. During the practices that we've had, we do 45s where it kills guys at the end, and he's been like a whole ice length ahead of everybody. So he's somebody that's coming back. It's not really an ad, but that's somebody that by him coming back, it's really gonna help us. And then some of the younger players that we've added so far are really good players too as well. We have Jordan Wisniewski from Mitchell, who's a high end pick from Erie. That's going to be good for us. He's a big body, good scorer. We have Colton Henderson, who we brought in, who played a full year last year in half in St. Mary's, half in Chatham. He's a local kid that he's played good for us in the preseason, put up some good goals. And then we have Trent Harris coming in, who played U18 Guelph last year. That's going to complement our bottom six with Landon Mitchell, similar guy, going to complement the bottom six. And then and then right now we're working on a couple other pieces that are going to help, but and then our backup goalie this year is a Jack Bree, who's played really good in U18. He's gonna learn from Artsy and hopefully kind of have the same progression that Artsy did the last couple of years here. So we're really deep again this year. We got so many returning guys from a championship roster that we have as many returning guys as anybody in our league, if not more. And they're not just returning guys. They're guys that have been dirty to the playoffs the last 3 years, and then last year had a lot of success. So it's we'll definitely be a hard team to beat. It's hard to repeat, but it's something that we're definitely trying to strive towards.
And you have a new assistant coach. Tell us about him.
Yeah, so we did just hire a new assistant coach, Sean Dietrich. When we lost Luke Israel to Brooks, it's kind of a weird time of the year to lose a coach because most people have already committed to teams, and it's hard to get them away from teams at this time of the year. But Corey Dietrich was helping Jason Brooks out with the U15 Lakers. He's a guy that had 6 years in the University of Waterloo as the defensive coach. And then he was with the minor midgets in Waterloo forever, which he's coached a lot of guys. He coached my good buddy Nick Spalling. He coached him there. He coached I forget his name, but he coached the guy that won the Stanley Cup last year with Florida. I forget his name from Waterloo, but either way, he's coached a lot of guys, pushed a lot of guys up. I think now that pushes Holden Lansing to our forward group, where he's the all-time leading scorer for the Listowel Cyclones, so that kind of puts him in the niche right up there. He's going to help run the power play, which he's good at. And now you have Sean Dietrich, who has always been a head coach with Jesse Cole. It's just, I think our coaching staff, We lost a good coach. We gained a good coach. So to me, that's kind of par for the course, and we're just ready to get going here.
You've obviously had a busy summer. You've had a very successful summer, winning the championship, getting new players, very good players in. But it's also a time of year where you got to do probably one of the things you wouldn't want to do, and that's cut players. Is that probably the worst part of this job?
Oh, it is. It is for sure. Like the other day, I had to let go a goalie that I had to let him go just because the young goalie outperformed him in camp, and it's something that it's the worst part. Like, honestly, I talked to my wife about it the other day. It's part of my job. I got to do it. If you can't do it, you can't be part of this. And it's just it sucks because some of these kids, they're good kids. But at the end of the day, on the other side of it, you have a kid that worked hard all summer and he earned that job. So you have the good part about it, telling the one kid that, hey, you're here. You're here because you earned it. You're here because you did everything right all summer. And then you have the other kid that he did everything right probably all summer too, but it comes down to it's kind of a life thing. There's in some spots, there's 13 forward spots, there's 7 D spots, and there's 2 goalie spots, and you're either there or you're not, right? And to go back on that, that's kind of like Teague Vader. I talked to Teague Vader tonight. Teague Vader on probably any other OHL team is on the team. But that he's on Barrie. Barrie's loading up. Barrie's traded for a couple D. They don't want to sit him in the press box. They would rather him come to us, play, and then be good for them next year. So that's just kind of the part of the game that is the bad part of the game. But at the end of the day, it's part of it. So
Yeah, it is. And I mean, Teague, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he got called up here and there to play some games for the Colts. Of course, recently signing his standard player agreement with the Barrie Colts. So congrats to him. It's a big achievement. Obviously, his brother in the OHL as well. So it's nice for the family. You know, Trent, we've talked a lot about guys you've lost, new additions. It sounds like you're going to return a lot of good players from last year's roster that did a lot of special things. And I mean, you kind of touched on some of the guys that made big impacts last year. I thought Harrison Muhlenstein took a big step throughout the season, turned into a really clutch scorer in terms of generating points in the playoffs. I look at kids like Dylan Shimanowski, who sat quite a bit down the stretch in the playoffs, but when he was called upon to go in, like, he was gung-ho. Like, you got a bunch of returning players from last year's group, particularly in that back end too, that, like, you're going to scare some teams here in defense of this title.
Oh, 100%. Like, our back end, I think we when I got there, we were a little bit smaller, and I watched an Elmira team that was big and kind of played physical against us all the time on the back end. So my model is build us big at the back end, but guys that are mobile. So returning guys like Aiden Renault, Teagan Middleton, even Keaton Middleton, his brother, who didn't get in the lineup a lot last year, but has looked really good in preseason because he was kind of there. Benson Moore, a guy that he just soaks pucks and throws his body around, right? And then with the Teague Vader's kind of that. He's kind of the different piece than those guys. He's that offensive weapon as well. And then on the forward group, you have like Camden McNeven, who he's like that Jack, like he just Swiss Army knife. He just he can be on your power play, be on your PK, good 5-on-5. You got Coombsy, our captain, who everybody looks at him and looks at him as a leader and follows him. And when he talks in the dressing room, everybody listens. And then you got guys like Muhlenstein and Shimanowski, like you talked about. Both of those guys were, Muhlenstein won Rookie of the Year, but they were both pushing each other for Rookie of the Year in the PGHL. So the points they put up there, they can put those up here this year, right? And then you got Mason Urick. Mason Urick played down. He was on that top line all year with his brother in Burkett. He scored some nice goals in preseason. He's got an amazing shot. He even looks really good on the PK right now. He's that guy that can play everywhere. He's that guy that's been in the league now for 3 years. He's ready to go, right? So you just, with all those pieces right there, and then our goalie Artsy that we've talked about before, we have so many pieces. And when I was like in Mount Forest and I watched after you've won, you come back and you have that little swagger that everybody's going to be a little bit better than they were last year, just because they have the confidence that when you win a championship like we did last year, there's nothing that you don't think you can do anymore. So if you're down 3-0 in a game, you think you can come back. If you're down 2-1 with a minute left, you think you're going to score that goal, right? If if you make a mistake and somebody's gone, you've seen Artsy do so much that you think he's going to bail you out. Like, it's just that added confidence, and we're bringing a lot of young guys in there that they're going to absorb that. And the good thing about winning is guys like O'Flaherty and them, they want to come here, right? And it's easy for me to say I'll pitch it because they want to win. And when people want to win and they've seen that you've won, they all want a piece of that, right? Everybody playing is one thing, winning is another. And I just think that our team this year, where we were last year when I talked to you guys like this, we're just as deep as we were. I think our back end's a little bit better. Our goaltending is probably where it was, because last year I never thought Artsy was going to be what Artsy was, but I knew Grimes would. So for me as a GM, I look at it that if I can add 2 more pieces like I did last year with like a Birkin and Moore as the season goes on, there's no reason. You can never guarantee championships, but there's no reason that we're not in that conversation again with our roster.
The rest of the GHL must be just absolutely rattled looking at your lineup, man. I love it. Trent, last year was so much fun. We had a blast riding along with you, the CKNX crew. We're so excited to get started again. We're going to be there opening night, watch a banner go up. We can't wait, man. It's going to be so much fun to get this thing back on the road. You've been a really busy guy this year. You've been really busy, and we're looking forward to it paying dividends again. Hey, let's go back to back here. Come on. Like, let's not beat around the bush. Let's go back to back, Trent. Come on. I want to see another champagne shower. Yeah, I'm going to send you a laundry bill for my coat, by the way. It still smells like champagne.
You just have to reuse it this year if it happens, right? So
absolutely, my friend. Well, hey, Trent, you're one of our favorites. We can't wait for the season to start. Trent McClement, GM of the Listowel Cyclones, looking to defend their Sutherland Cup title in the GOJHL this year. Trent, thanks so much for doing this, brother. Best of luck this season. I can't wait to see you at the rink.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, we'll take another quick break. Clarkey and I'll come back, wrap up the show with our couch potatoes. We got some beauties this week. That's next here on Instigating. Back to wrap things up on a very exciting edition here of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by our friends at Larry Hudson Chevrolet Buick GMC. The deals are always hot. The hot weather has returned, but it doesn't matter if it's minus 30 out. The deals with our friends at Larry Hudson's, they're hot. It doesn't matter the time of year. There's always something going on. You can see Clarkey. You can go see, if you have another rep, no problem.
Maybe Trent
McClement, GM of the Listowel Cyclones, the defending Sutherland Cup champs, and he's part of the great team over at Larry Hudson's. So you can go visit him over there. Maybe get him to show you the ring.
Yeah, how about that? I really enjoy working with Trent. He's a good dude. He really is.
A beauty, one of my favorite people in the game. Just a good guy, easy to root for. We love Trent. We love the Listowel Cyclones. We love Larry Hudson's. How about that? Listowel. Let's go. Now, we have got to talk a little bit about our couch potatoes this week. And Clarkey, I love letting you go first. You know, respectful. You're older than me, so seniority, by way of seniority, you get to go first. So I'm interested to hear what you have on tap for me this week.
Well, as a goalie, I'm always looking out for goalie stories. And this week, my couch potato is a former NHL player who answered an ad and played in a men's beer league game, showed up. Roberto Luongo in Florida answers an ad that a team is desperate for a goalie. Isn't that great? Like, there's Roberto Luongo showing up to answer the ad and to play in a men's beer league game. That's
waltzing amazing. Into the clip of him waltzing into the dressing room and all the guys are speechless, like they can't believe that Bobby Lou is in there. And
it's unreal.
Not only did he show up and save these guys because they didn't have a goalie. This is a playoff game, by the way, in their summer beer league. He backstops them to a 4-2 win. Bobby Lou.
I can't believe he let in 2 goals.
See, Vancouver? It wasn't all Bobby Lou's fault. If you had given this guy some scoring support, you would have been Stanley Cup champions.
It's sort of like Martin Brodeur with the commercial. There's a commercial about Brodeur going and playing in a beer league game. But that's great. Way to go, Roberto. That's what sports and hockey is all about. Like, just stories like that where Roberto Luongo goes and as not only a goalie, but as a rental goalie, I know what it's like. I did a rental goalie thing for a few years there, and it was awesome. I was playing 2-3 times a day, getting paid $30 a game. I was a professional goalie. I was.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah,
that's how the Beamer came. That's how the Beamer came to be. That's right. That hot side gig for you, dude. That's
good. Right. That's right. So there you go. Roberto Luongo, you are my couch potato this week.
Professional goalie, literally getting off the couch and strapping the pads on. We love that. Exactly. Well, let me tell you about a guy that has not been on the couch very much lately for my couch potato. Let me tell you, and we touched on this guy with our buddy Mike Gentili. Check him out on Sportsnet TheFan590. Dude, this Bowden Francis cat has shown up and lit the league on fire. Let me read you some numbers here. It's just disgusting what this dude is doing. Bowden Francis's .092 opponent batting average. That's throughout the whole year, by the way. He's the second lowest over a 6-start span. This is over his last 6 starts, not the year. In MLB's live ball era, that's since 1920, ladies and gentlemen. Second lowest.
Crazy.
In a 6-game span in league history. It's just outrageous what this dude is up to. And I got another wild stat for you. I mean, let me tell you what, this guy has just been absolutely lighting batters on fire. No one can figure this guy out. Here's his stat ranks since August 7th. His whip, 0.47, first. Opponent average, 112, first. Strike percentage, 71.9. Let me just hold on just one sec. Do you understand how insane that is? That means that almost 72% of the pitches total that this guy has thrown since August 7th are strikes.
Crazy.
Outrageous. That's first. No shock. His walks per 9, 0.9, third in Major League Baseball. His Ks to walk ratio, 11.25. Third, his chase percentage. So he's not just throwing strikes and having guys foul balls off. Swinging and missing. His chase percentage, 33.9%. That's good for third in Major League Baseball since August 7th. Look,
he's not on the couch. That's for sure.
I've been waiting all year, Clarkey, to talk about something positive with this Blue Jays team. And let's not take anything away from Vladdy. Since the All-Star break, that guy has been arguably the best hitter in baseball. Top 3 for sure. He's a freak.
Yes.
Bowden Francis, ladies and gentlemen.
And I was so pulling for him today. Man, I want to see a no-hitter. We've seen one in this franchise's history. One.
Dave Steve, and this type of stuff happened to him a couple times too.
And it was in September as well, and it was I'll never forget. It was one of the games I never watched. And I used to watch a lot of games back then. And I was at a buddy's cottage.
You missed.
Yeah. I was at a buddy's cottage, and I came off the lake, and everyone's talking about the Jays game. I'm like, what happened? And they're like, Dave Steve pitched a no-hitter. And I'm like, I missed it. I was like, I didn't see a single pitch of that game. And
tough one.
I want to see one. Like, I've seen them. Obviously,
I've watched a few live,
but no Jays.
No Jays.
And I want to see a Blue Jay do it.
We want that.
Anyway, good one. That's two good
amazing
couch potatoes this week.
Two good couch potatoes, ladies and gentlemen. How about that? Okay, we appreciate everybody watching the show. Thanks to our friend Mike Gentili, and of course Trent McClement for coming on this week. Hockey around the corner. You can catch all the games on CKNX AM 920. Steve Saber and Johnny K, myself, are going to be there for the Listowel home opener, obviously, and then we're opening the Junior C season the following week in Hanover. The defending
Strathroy, right? They play.
Strathroy is. It's down to 2 conferences now in the GOJHL. Bit of a shakeup. So remember, you can tune in every Friday night to CKNX Junior Hockey. Listen to Sabby and JK. I'll be on there on occasion too. How about that?
But don't forget to listen to our show.
You got to listen to the show. We know you listen and watch. How about that? Exactly. Really quick as well. Look, we're recording this on September 11th. Not much more it needs to be said. Obviously, very important to remember that tragic day, and it changed the world, Clarkey. I mean, I was in grade 5 when that happened. I still can't believe it.
I was at the Air Canada Center it was the very opening day of Leaf Camp. It was my first year working for the Maple Leafs, and this happened. and it was unbelievable.
Terrible stuff, man. Yeah, September 11th, important to remember, and we're thinking about everybody who was affected by that, man. And a lot of lives changed that day, man, for sure. So it's important to remember, and you know, we're thinking about everybody. All right. Remember, you can watch this show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. We debut on our YouTube channel. Watch us there. Subscribe. Friday nights at 9. Please subscribe, share, tell everybody. Hey, you can do that on social media, and you can follow us there at Instigating Pod. And you can also find this on all the best podcast apps too. You can listen, you can watch, you can do whatever you want here, man. And we're just appreciative you're here. And
sponsorship opportunities.
Hello.
If you want to sponsor this show, get a hold of us. You can
Let's go.
You can DM us, right? Is that the word?
You got it, brother. At Instigating Pod. How about that?
Yeah.
We will be back next week with more Instigating.